Yeah, it's prep work right now. I'm trying to get this thing. See, I broke a leg off of this, which is a good thing. I liked it, and it was a gift from a dear friend. So, in order to use it, now with two legs, I'm trying to incorporate it into a coffee cup. It's this meta process here. Stuff it in a coffee cup, then you jam this thing on here, turn that like this. I'm gonna take you guys and put you guys in the clip, try and clip it in without hitting the volume buttons, and it sits. It sits. Oh, that's good. All right, so I'm doing prep work right now. Um, it's Monday morning. It's not morning. It's probably noon now. But as is I'm pretty consistently hitting the workshop around 11 o'clock in the mornings. I have a busy life, and so I tend to work in 4-hour shifts in between um, family and church and other stuff. I try to get out on my motorcycle quite often. I want to share what I'm doing here. There's been a lot of feedback coming over the internet back to me from people who've been riding my boards for like a long time. Hey, who's that? Prodigal son, good to see you. How you doing? There's been a lot of feedback coming back from people, and the overwhelming feedback is that I'm nicer than I seem. and that the boards last a long time. I'm really grateful for this kind of feedback. Anytime a board doesn't really satisfy, I always try to make that right personally. I think that's the strength of this kind of company, this kind of brand. You know, this is a brand, but it's not just a brand. Today, what I'm doing in here while we're talking is I'm taking some long material. I'm trimming it down using a template. I'm trimming it down to make my boards. Now my boards are like 35 inches long. I've been out to 36 inches long. My boards are not short boards. These pieces are over 48 inches. These are 50-inch wide long pieces. And I purchased master sheets years ago, trimmed them into 48s and 50s, and just set them. So you're like, oh, okay, Lou, so I want wood that's 36, 37 inches long, and I'm cutting down 47 and 50-inch pieces. So what will I do with like this ocean of cutoffs? These cutoffs are all about 11 to 12 inches wide. They're not all uniform, you know. They're not all uniform. But thing is, in the past, I have done a lot of splice work where I'll take 3 12-inch pieces and I'll match them up like this and get a crossband section for a deck. Now, I put splices in decks for years. I haven't done it for a couple of years because I came into a really nice quantity of non-splice material. I've had really good wood to work with for the last couple of years. And see, what happened was I got a whole bunch of really cheap wood that was in a weird dimension. And I was able to trim and splice and make terrific boards. And I know that you cannot splice a lengthwise piece of veneer, but you can splice crossband. Crossband is this super floppy inner here, and all of its strength is lateral. So there's almost no bond lengthwise. It's almost all strength is crossways. That's why you can take 3 floppy pieces, just like that. You can butt them up. Now, how do you keep them butted up when you put them in the press? Well, I was happy to find out that the pressure of my presses tends to strengthen the abutment of those joints, but I also use a tiny bit of tape on the outer edge that's going to be cut away anyway. I don't put tape into the middle of a deck. That's like a blank spot where you need a bond. So I put tape out on the outside edges just to hold the place. And back in the day, I used to splice noses. I would put a splice in the nose of a board, and I would put a splice in the middle of a board. These aren't going to be in regular circulation boards. All of these spliceable cutoffs are going to get size sorted, width sorted, and set aside, and they might sit for years before I use them. Likely in some experimental boards and flow boards and testers later on. So I'm not putting splices in decks. However, I have in the past, and I would not hesitate to splice decks crossband. Now, that said, we had a board in our crew over the years. We've had boards with splices that are spliced improperly. One of them was a Santa Monica Airlines board that was spliced on the long grain. It had lengthwise splicing. That's the wrong way to splice. And that board was skated by a guy in my crew who was over 300 pounds. That thing did not fail. So you've got like this terrible thing of splicing that you must not do on the long grain, and then you have this SMA board that would not fail even though it had a bad splice. I can't help but think that a lot of this laminate science is about how well you spread your glue, how quick you get it in the press, how long it's in the press, and how long it cures afterward. I just don't think that any of us guys who make boards are doing anything. Oh man, the freaking technology tells me I only have 10%. This is like, I'm older, I don't have a good relationship with these gadgets that you depend on. You know what? I need to quit fussing about that and just enjoy the fact that I have a supercomputer in my pocket that I can talk to you guys with. That's a better attitude. I have a lot of times in the day I could have a better attitude. So anyway, I'm kind of getting blown away by, I think, what is not a mystery. It's not a high-tech thing. It's that if you do the right glue spreading, and each sheet needs proper care on glue spreading. You know, they run them through a machine in the factory, and it puts a uniform glue application on every piece. And I think that sounds terrific. I love it. I love the idea that I could just send them through a machine. Thing about it is, take a look at this piece of wood. I don't know if you can see how rough this piece of wood is. Look at the roughness. Can you see the feathery finish on this one? And now look at this piece of wood here. Pull this one out. This one is insanely smooth. So this smooth one, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, it's smooth on one side, and the other side is completely feathery and rough. Now, how are you gonna get a proper glue application using a machine that uses exactly the same glue bead on the super smooth side as it does on the highly feathery, super rough side? You're not. And I think that some of these things come into play when it comes to board quality from mass production facilities. Now, this conversation we're having is not about getting rid of mass production, but it is about understanding the value of craft-made boards. When you have a maker around you who's individually treating each veneer with glue, making sure this one, which is rough, has much more surface area, it's gonna need more glue. And then they're individually treating each one with glue. This side just needs a quick roll. This side needs a little bit of lateral smear when the glue is applied. The difference between that and the industrial glue machine assembly line is definitely real. You cannot deny it. But no shop like ours is going to be making 1 million decks, 10 million, 14 million decks a year. That's not going to happen here. Those mass production facilities can do something that a shop like mine simply can't. And I think there's value on both sides of that. Now, for myself personally, obviously, I value knowing who made my deck, knowing that it's the best they could do, knowing that if it fails me, that they won't. That's the kind of company I've always wanted to have behind my skateboard brands. And so that's what I became, you know, be the change you want to see in the world. Other folks don't have that attitude, and you know what? That's fantastic. You do you. I'm here for everyone who wants this, and I'm not. I don't know. You know, I'm not the same as the other stuff, and I have to tell you, I'm not the same. And I hope that I hope it makes sense to you. I'm going to get back to trimming some of these while we finish our conversation. But I just wanted to take a minute to share this moment of prep work with you. I used to run a bandsaw. I have a bandsaw literally installed in here. Not a bandsaw, a table saw. And after years of using the table saw on multiple batches, it is really nice to have piecework that I can do with a simple utility knife. A template, a utility knife, and this trim. And I just throw them over here and they fall down underneath the table. Guys, I love this kind of work. I love simple processes that yield strong results. And I love making boards for you. Lead times got long again. And if you're local, I'd love to have you come visit. I have a visitor coming in. I've had lots of shop visitors lately coming in and getting a tour. And this visitors today are coming in from LA. And they're going to get to see this lowbrow operation. And who knows what they'll think of it coming from the land of Supreme. But I imagine that it'll be good. Now, why did I'm cutting cores right now. I selected all these veneer for core. These are all relatively flawed pieces. Got lots of feathery, wobbly plies in here. These make great, strong core wood. On the inside of your board, these feathery boards with lots of rough grain are going to give you an amazing bond because the amount of surface area involved is terrific. And when you slam all that down in the press and you get that tight, that becomes an insane bond. Although, you know what? I bet someone who knows science would be like, actually, only smooth layers have the proper bonding, and maybe it doesn't matter as much as I'm saying. I'm just, there's different ways to look at things. There's very little science in skateboard making. There's a lot of conjecture and like that, and gotta admit that. But I'm selecting which end I'm gonna cut off, and where to lay the knots. Oh guys, knots in your skateboards. There's all kinds of yakety yak, and all of it sounds really smart about knots and where they go in your boards among board makers. I mean, folks have got super scientific opinions about how to space knots through your boards and stuff. In the beginning of my board making, I had to get my head straight or I was going to be paralyzed and figure out how I was going to handle knots. So I started to make boards. I started to make experimental boards that were filled with knots, cracks, all kinds of fissures, splits, and perforations. And I found out that the layups, almost no matter how chaotic the layups were, they were great. And I was a little bit frustrated that I couldn't emerge from my research with any gimmick to offer you guys. I couldn't. Alternate knot placement, none of it mattered. It seems like what matters is care in glue application, speed in getting it into the press, presses at lowest possible pressure. You want to achieve the glue bond without degrading the long and cross grains. You don't want to turn your boards into cardboard. And then a proper post cure. Everything that goes in a mold and comes out relaxes. Every relax is different. Yeah, maybe knot placement comes into play with that. There's not a skateboard on your skate shop wall that is completely high precision. And I just shake it out and just keep making. I've had some really interesting interactions around all this, because the high science mind is looking for that gimmick that they can offer you, and they can say, oh, you know, we do this, we do that. Fact is, if you put quality into rolling your glue, you put quality into your pressing pressure and open work time, if you put quality into those things, you're gonna make durable, awesome skateboards. My molds are hand rendered by me from plaster, and so my molds are different to other molds. That's where you get into some of the weird stuff, because molds can actually be terrific. Very few of the concaves on the market are gonna stop you from ripping your skateboard. The thing that makes you rip isn't necessarily a technological aspect. It's inside your heart. So you take that heart of yours and take that head of yours, unplug this, plug in that, and go skate today. Have a great day, and hopefully I'll get to go skate. It's a little bit rainy today, but it's like patchy showers, so maybe I'll do another grumpy edit. Well, that's what I have to say today, and